Regina, Mater misericordiae, vita dulcedo, estes nostra salve.
The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. As Jesus was passing through a field of grain on the Sabbath, his disciples began to make a path while picking the heads of grain. At this the Pharisees said to him, "Look, why are they doing what is unlawful on the Sabbath?" He said to them, "Have you never read what David did when he was in need, and he and his companions were hungry? How he went into the house of God when Abiathar was high priest, and ate the bread of the offering that only the priests could lawfully eat, and shared it with his companions?" Then he said to them, "The Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath. That is why the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath." The Gospel of the Lord. Diverging a little bit from the Gospel, on the feast of St. Anthony, I thought I would recount a little story about St. Anthony. In little anecdotes written about him by St. Athanasius, he recounts a story of how St. Anthony was praying on a hill, deep in contemplative prayer, and while he was praying, two monks were walking and had walked quite a ways to come to see him. And on the road, one of the monks collapsed and died of thirst. And the other monk collapsed and he was on the verge of dying. And it was revealed to Anthony that this was happening. And so he immediately broke from prayer and he dispatched two monks to go quickly on the road to Egypt to find these two other monks and give the one who had survived water and revive him and bury the one who had died. And so then Athanasius begs the question, well, why didn't God reveal this to Anthony before the first monk died? It's a reasonable question. And Athanasius, kind of like a wise guy, said, that's not the real issue. The real issue is that death of that monk is between God and that monk. The issue that's pertinent is that because Athanasius was prayerfully absorbed, he heard the voice of God speak to him, and he promptly obeyed what the voice of God told him to do and saved the life of a monk. That's the issue. It begs a different question for us. Imagine what we could be doing in executing God's will if we would actually take time, not just to pray on the run, but to sit down and be quiet and still and pray long enough to hear God whisper to our hearts. Because this is not something he wants to do only for the monks and those locked up in monasteries, but he wants to whisper to the hearts of all his dear children. The prophet Amos tells us that God reveals nothing. God does nothing without revealing his plan to his servants, the prophets. All of you who are baptized, I can produce a written document that says you're a prophet. And so you're sitting on your gift and you're not doing anything with it because you won't take time to pray. What's the paper I can produce? In the baptismal ritual, you're baptized priest, prophet, and king. Your baptismal certificate is your signed certification of your prophetic credentials that are not being used because we don't pray and we don't allow our hearts, our minds, and our souls to be stilled to hear the voices and whispers of God as he calls us into his will to do wonderful and marvelous things.
Regina Celi, letare, alleluia, qui aquam meruis Alleluia.